Hit record on the computer. All right, so Miranda, can you see these slides okay? Let's see if I can get them launched. There we are.
Yes, I can see them perfectly fine.
Perfect. Okay, awesome. All right, well now we can start now that the salesperson's out of the way. All right. And let's go ahead and start the video. So I'll just quickly introduce myself. I'm Mrs. Woodland, and I'm so excited about Teach 105 because I haven't taught it for a few mods, actually. I've been doing a Design 113. I'm not sure if you've taken that topography class, but this is Design 105. We're going to do page layout tools. Hi, Miranda. Thanks for joining us. And we're going to go over just some quick business items. So we're going to fly through this really fast. And it's my hope that we can just jump right into the lecture, or I'm sorry, the design portion, because I want to go over the assignment. I don't know if you've looked ahead, but to the assessment, we're going to be, it's about, I think, 10 questions long, maybe 20 questions long. So I want to go over some of those quiz questions. So I'm not sure if you guys have taken the assessment yet, but it's my hope that you'll all get perfect scores on it when we're done. So it's just one less headache to have to deal with this week. So let's talk about where we're from. So Miranda, if you don't mind, if I put you on the spot, do you want to introduce yourself real quick? Tell us where you're from.
I am Miranda. This is my little boy, Nick. There's my daughter.
You got your hands full over there. They're adorable.
They like to be in the center spotlight too.
That's right. That's right.
I'm actually from Ohio. I live with my dad and my two kids. Going to work, going to school, taking care of them, kind of thing.
Perfect. So Miranda's busy, just like I guess many of us are, trying to juggle life and school and work and everything else that life throws at us. So I'm so happy that you're here and in class, and thank you for joining us. And you're welcome to go in and out as you need. I was also going to let you know that we have a multi-session this week, and I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the multi-sessions, but the way that they work is it's about a 2-hour block. It's not a recorded lecture at all. It's kind of my office hours, but it's kind of just Q&A if you want to come in and get some help on assignments. It's a good opportunity to, meet and greet. You can ask anything assignment related and we can go over it. It's a great way to get help, basically. So that's kind of my designated time. Now, if that time doesn't work for you, or your time zone or your schedule, I know it doesn't work for everybody, feel free to go to any of the multi-sessions. There will be a schedule posted in the announcements, if it's not already up, of other instructors who are holding multi-sessions. Even though you're not in their class or they're not your instructor, you can still go and ask them questions, and it's just like a tutor asking a tutor for some help. So they will be able to help you and answer questions. So that's also an option. And then there's also the Student Success Center. I'm not sure if you're familiar with how to access that, but if you go directly to our homepage, there's a little icon. There's like 6 or 9 picture icons. And one of them is the Student Success Center. So you'll click on that, and it might take you through a few steps, but then you'll enter a room where there are tutors and you have access to ask questions, and they are open daily. They have their hours posted, and you can check them out as you need. So there's several resources for help and that I hope you take advantage of. I also wanted to kind of put this plug in for the multi-session every Wednesday. You're welcome to come in and pass off assignments or get assignments pre-graded before you submit them. I'm happy to give you grading feedback, and if you make those changes, you can receive a grade on the spot, so you don't have to wait till the end of or beginning of the following week to get a grade on your assignment. So hopefully, I know some students have expressed interest in that, and so we've done it for a few mods now, and it's kind of worked out well. So there's that. Let's see. Now, Miranda, are you a graphic design major, or are you just doing this as a hobby?
I'm actually a graphic design major. I'm looking for a better job than I've got now. I'm up here working at Kings Island, so.
Okay. So graphic design major in the house, and this is a very basic, this will be a beginner's course for all of you who are taking it. So if anybody feels like they're 9 out of 10 as far as experience is concerned in the InDesign, this might be slow going for you, but it's always good to cover the basics. And so this is a beginner's course. We'll go into how to work the toolbar and what is InDesign and all of that good stuff. So All right. Well, welcome, Miranda. And let's talk about Adobe products. So have you learned any Adobe products so far, or is InDesign your first one?
I've learned InDesign, Photoshop, Illustrator.
Perfect. So you've kind of got the lay of the land, and you kind of notice some tools cross over, some don't,
Yeah.
programs are a little bit. There's some similarities and some big differences, but each program has its own purpose. But this class will be solely InDesign related. As you get into the other graphic design classes, you'll kind of toggle between Illustrator and InDesign. But InDesign is a lot of fun, and I think it's one of the most user-friendly of the programs, so you're in luck. And since you've already had experience with this, Miranda, this should be just a basic introduction or kind of refresher for you. All right.
Yeah, two favorite were Photoshop and InDesign. So
yeah, me too. I happen to love them both, and it took me a while to get a feel for Illustrator, but we won't be going over that in this class. Okay, so let's talk about some basics. We went over these questions, intro to the class. So if you go to your homepage, I want you to kind of get a feel for where to find things. There are discussion posts and deadlines every Wednesday at 11:59 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Depending on what time zone you're at, you'll have to kind of do the calculation. But before midnight at Mountain Time Zone, you will have to have your first discussion post in to get full credit, okay? And then 2 more follow-up posts that are geared toward your peers. Sometimes it might be a critique, or it might be, you might be following up with them on something that they posted, but that's required by Saturday. So a total of 3 posts on different days. You have to, separate days. You can't make all the posts in one day. Discussion posts are how I take attendance in class, and therefore there is no makeup work or late work allowed for discussion posts. This is the only thing that kind of trips up students, because they'll miss the discussion post, they will be absent that week, and then want to make up the work, and college policy doesn't allow me to give credit for that. So don't miss it. It's 60 easy points to just stay active in class, and that way I can take attendance and everyone's there. All right. Remember, 1 post needs to be substantive, but by that I mean at least a minimum of 150 words, okay? And you will be graded on your formality, the AP format. If you, I encourage examples, and some posts will ask you to post examples or share visuals, and you will need to cite them. If you quote somebody, you'll need to cite that. So resources are great. If you need any help with writing style requirements, this is all in the classroom under our course information. If you go to general guidelines, and then it will direct you to where you need to go.
Yeah, with my first time doing the discussion posts, I posted them all in 1 week, and I only got half credit for it.
Yeah, so, and you're not alone. A lot of students kind of miss that requirement. So, but that's a good point, Miranda. That brings me to the next point, is that if you go under the discussion, each assignment, each assessment, there will be a grading rubric. So before you submit a post or before you submit an assignment, just go look at it and make sure, kind of read through the rubric. That way there's no surprises and everybody's kind of on the same page. But yeah, you're not alone. Lots of students have done that in my classes, and I don't dock them half off, but if you're absent, you're absent. So that's kind of how the college looks at it. So it can be easy points, but it can also hurt too if you miss them. So, but let's talk about this week. So I don't. Yeah, exactly. And I don't know if you've looked at the assignment, had a chance to look at that yet, but this is going to be a fun one. This actually was the final project a year ago. They made this the final project, but we're actually going to start with it, this mod. They've kind of made some changes to the class. And so with that said, we're going to be making a menu design. And I'm going to show you 2 different ways to do it. I'm going to show you some tips and tricks on how to make a simple layout. And you're going to use the materials that are provided under the assignment. There's links that you can click and download the files. But all assignments and assessments are due this Saturday by 11:59 Mountain Standard Time. So just be aware what your time zone is. There's a time zone calculator under the Live Sessions tab on the course homepage. So if you need help, or just Google it or something. But if something occurs to prevent you from actually getting the assignments turned in on time, you need to contact me either by phone You can text me. I don't always have my phone on me, and I'm not always in my office. So text is always great, or you can email me. That's even better because I'm always at my computer. Before the project is due, don't email me Saturday, the day of the deadline, and say, hey, something came up. I won't be able to help. But we can make arrangements if you know something's going to come up ahead of time, okay? After that deadline, it's just that. It's after the deadline, and so you do get that late penalty of 20%, but 20% is better than a 0, and there's worse things that can happen, and it's not that much off your grade. So that's what it's there for the unexpected things, like my internet crashed, or I got called into work, or whatever it is. I had to take someone to the hospital. I know there's lots of different extremity reasons why you would miss an assignment at the last minute, but that late penalty is there to help you and not hurt you. So let's see. I really accept and encourage resubmissions of your projects, but I don't accept partial resubmissions. So you can't be picky and choosy about the changes that you make. I actually have a little disclaimer under this. You do need to visit me or another instructor at a multi-session, or you need to go to the Student Success Center and have them look at the feedback and pass it off. So once that they've done that or I've done that, you can get a grade for it. But until then, I don't just, because what happens is students kind of like scan it and they work really fast and they resubmit it, and then they're resubmitting 2 or 3 times because I have to say, oh, you forgot this one, or you left off these changes. Not all the changes were made. So to kind of eliminate the back and forth, just require you to pass it off to me beforehand at a multi-session, or go to the Student Success Center to do that with a tutor. That is how we can work together and saves you time too. That way you're not going back and forth making changes. But this is a great way to improve your grade, because I feel like the first time around is usually the rough draft anyway. And we learn from our mistakes, and there'll be critique and feedback that you're going to get, and it's there to help improve your designs. So I just want you to, I really want to see you guys pass and succeed with flying colors in this class, because it can be difficult to balance the workload, but if you can find time to make those resubmissions, it is well worth it. Okay, multi-session. So we talked about when they are. This is also in the syllabus and also in the welcome email that I sent. So if you didn't get it, let me know. Maybe it went in your spam folder, but I'm happy to send it again. I am in the Pacific time zone, therefore, I know some of you East Coasters, this is probably a difficult time and kind of late, but like I said, you don't have to attend the multi-sessions. You can go to another one that's being held during the week if you can't make mine, okay? Are there any questions so far about just the introduction to the class? Everything pretty clear as mud?
Yeah, everything's crystal clear.
Okay. All right, hang in there. We're almost done with the busy work. Here's the best way to get a hold of me. Email me. I am always at my computer. You can message me through Canvas, though I don't always check that, so that's not, I'll get your messages maybe once a week. So if you need to get a hold of me right away, email is best. You can text me. Just be aware of the time zone. I've had students text me at like 3 in the morning before, or try to call at 5 a.m. and I'm not gonna answer my phone then. But like I said, I'm always in the office, so you can always email me and we can work a time to meet over Zoom if you want.
Yeah, best thing about this is that you're actually 2 hours behind. Well, actually, almost an hour and a half behind me. It's 9:44 here.
Okay, so you are on the East Coast then.
Yep.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So it is a little late for you guys. So like I said, you can bounce out if you need to. Totally understand, and you can always catch the recording if it starts getting a little late for you. Okay. So this week we're going to be learning about how to define InDesign, how to use the field. We're going to talk about some scenarios when you would use it. We're going to talk about the 10 basic tools you're going to be quizzed on for the assessment. We're going to talk about their description, how to use them, and we're going to get into the menu design portion as well. I want to go over the first assignment in detail so that there's no cloudy area. Everyone's pretty clear on that. All right, so these are our objectives. We're going to learn how to package our InDesign document. We're going to learn how to use the color palette. I'm going to teach you how to use the character panel and how to draw shapes and kind of manipulate them. And then I'm going to show you correct image resizing and cropping. This will be very important because you will get docked points for anything that's misproportioned, or if you don't constrain your proportions, things can be skewed or stretched, and we really want to avoid that. We want it to look professional when it's done. So I'm going to show you how to do that. It's a very simple trick. And this discussion, I'll let you go and look, but I just wanted to show you that you might want to try a job website like monster.com. That's a pretty popular one. And consider checking a few others like Indeed, the Art Career Project, or basically any job listing resource that you might know of. You might know of more than these 3 or 4, but use the InDesign as a keyword for your search and kind of take note of the job titles that are out there. This is great for graphic designers. I love this assignment, or I should say this discussion, because this is kind of like if you were looking for a job, where would you go? And then you kind of have to do that search to look for the posts that have are in need of graphic designing. So this is an excellent kind of real life project that you will need to do. So I encourage you to do it anyways. Okay, so all the information about the discussion is in the course homepage, so I'll let you go there and read it. The assessment is a quiz. It's based on our week 1 live session, the readings, and the videos. So all that combined, we are going to cover this in detail because I want you all to get a good score on it. There's a total of 11 questions, and you have unlimited time to take the quiz. So if you need to, rewind me a few times, that's fine too, and hopefully you can ace it. So just be careful to read the question to help discourage cheating. Some of the questions kind of seem like the others, but the values have changed. So just make sure that you're reading the question and the order is correct. I don't want you to get tripped up by what it says.
Yeah,
all right.
To read anyway, just the fact of my dyslexia anyway. So
yeah, so it's important to know exactly what they're asking. So just take your time. Sometimes we can. I know I do this because we take lots of quizzes as instructors. We have to continually doing our continuing education. I'll get kind of trigger happy, and I'm like, oh, I know that one, and it winds up I didn't read it all the way through, or it winds up being out of order. So just take your time. It happens to the best of us. Okay. So for this assignment, we're going to be going over creating some cover designs for a menu, and this is really, really fun. For the week, let's see, week 2 assignment, you're going to do the rest of the menu. So this is a crucial assignment to turn in. If you miss it, then you're going to have double the work next week. So I really encourage you to get this assignment in. You'll note that the assignments kind of build off of each other. And if you miss the first one, it just kind of throws off your game for the rest of the mod. And I don't want that to happen. So just try to get a good head start on this. In the field of graphic arts, we really give the client more than one option to choose from. So this week, just like in real life, you will be designing 2 versions of the same menu cover, okay? And I will go over how to do that simply and time efficiently, because I know not everyone's got a lot of time to spend. You're gonna have to choose a restaurant. They're gonna give you 3 different kinds. They kind of give you the background. So this is Maxwell's. It's a fine steak, fine dining experience. And this is kind of pictures of the chef and the food that they serve. So this is kind of a very fancy restaurant. And here is an example of what one might look like. Okay, so you're going to use the pictures that they give you. You're going to use the logo and the information. The text is all there. And so you're going to either choose one of the 3. The other one is Starlight Bistro, and this is more of a beachy feel. And this is kind of like in the middle between fancy and just fast casual.
I love this. I've already actually done this one.
You have?
Yes, I have.
Perfect. Well, that saves you time then.
And more effort.
That's right. And here's pictures of the food. So it's a little step above what you'd normally get. Here's an example of what it might look like. Something great by the sea. So it's kind of have this beachy feel, and the pictures and everything. But notice how the pictures are all consistently sized together. So whether it's fine dining, let's see. These fine dining, they're all the same size, cropped at the same places. And then in this example, it's the same thing. They're all the same size. So the pictures are proportionate. I wanted to kind of throw that out there, just kind of show you that this is kind of what I'm going to be looking for. I want proportion. I want it to look clean and neat. Then there's number 3, kind of like a Panda Express, where it's the walk and roll. It's a Chinese restaurant, and it's kind of the lower of the groups. This is the one I'm going to demo, just so you know. And there are several pictures that they give you. This makes me super hungry because I'm a fan of sushi. But the walk and roll, this is a very simple cover. They give you the logo and the pictures and all the text. And so in this one, the pictures are not as proportionate as you might expect, but it really works because of the placement where they put them. It kind of helps them feature certain items. So we'll talk about that a little bit more in detail. And here's your assignment, all the specs. I'm going to show you how to get this document set up. Note at the bottom here that if your InDesign is a default in picas, different unit of measurement, or I think points is what it is, just make sure that you have changed your preferences to be in inches before you start this new document. It can get really confusing if your units of measurement are off. So just make sure that you've got it set up, and I can show you how to do that. It's something it's good to know anyways. And then make sure you use the logo and the tagline from your restaurant. You need to create a menu cover. Get creative. Think of a way that you'd want to feature your restaurant, and just kind of think of the genre of the restaurant too. This is some are Asian, one's fine dining, the other is very beachy. So you can add color or pattern backgrounds. I really discourage the pattern background part of this because it's kind of something that students haven't quite mastered yet, so it can be a little busy and maybe too busy in the background. So just kind of try your best, but utilize the photos definitely that are given. Add lines and shapes to your design, however simple or complex you think the restaurant warrants, and however you feel comfortable designing, okay? And then you're gonna go to page 2 and create a second version of your cover. So consider trying a different background. I want them to look like 2 separate options, okay? You don't want them to look too similar. Okay, and then just remember that this assignment will carry over to the next week, so just make sure you get it done. This is very important. You will be graded on your creativity. If you copy the layout from the example, then your creativity score goes down a little bit on the rubric. Not too much though, because I do feel like it is important to, especially as you're starting out, to kind of be able to mimic good design. So I won't be talking too much, but I really encourage you to just try to get creative with it. Because as a designer, if you're going into graphic design, you can't copy people's work. It's just not gonna, you won't last long. So just get in the good habit of trying to think creatively, get those creative juices flowing, okay? We're gonna go over how to zip a package and how to package a file so that we have all the elements in the folder. We'll go over all of that. Okay, here is the rubric. Some things have kind of been added to it, but this is what you're going to be graded on. So there's no surprises. Make sure all the specs are correct, and you have 2 different layouts, and each one contains the same information so it'll be a 3-page document, 2 cover designs, and 1 inside page. All right, are there any questions about this week's assignment or assessment?
No.
All right. Okay, so we got that out of the way. We're going to jump into InDesign now. So if you want to launch it, I'll go ahead and go over some key things you're going to need to know, like how to set up a document and how to work the toolbar. And let me close out of this real quick. All right, so InDesign, let me go. Okay, so we're going to talk about the basic rundown of InDesign tools. We're going to get familiar with the InDesign toolbar. And I am going to pull up a new document. So let's do this together. If you'll go to File at the top of your InDesign file, click on New, and then scroll over to Document. You'll notice there's Document, Book, Library. This is if you wanted to create a book, if you wanted to access your library. But in this case, we are only creating a new document. So you'll click File, New Document. I think Word is kind of structured similar. So if you're familiar with Word at all, this should be a good refresher. Okay, so first things first, once you've got your InDesign launched, you'll want to go to InDesign and Preferences. If your units and increments are not already set in inches, you'll want to go to InDesign, and then scroll over to Preferences, go down to Units and Increments, and your Preferences panel box will pop up. And here's where you make sure that everything, usually default on my InDesign is picas, so I kind of have to go in and manually set it to inches, just like that, okay? And other units you can leave alone. I wouldn't mess with anything else other than what's under the ruler units, okay? Then you'll hit OK, and that's where you'll go to File, New Document. So here's your new document panel. Is everyone with me so far? And this is where you'll, the document preset, you can either choose default or custom. And now the default has the settings already here. If you do wind up changing something down here, it will automatically change to custom. So you don't need to worry about manually changing that. It will adjust as you start entering in all the specs. Number of pages, you will need 3 pages, and you want to start on page 1. So page 1 will be our first cover option. Page 2 will be our second cover option, and page 3 will be our inside page. You'll want to deselect the box facing pages. We don't want that checked. Facing pages just means the pages are side by side, and that's usually only used if you're designing a book or a magazine or anything kind of related, maybe a folder or file or something. But for this assignment, we want them to be separate pages. So you'll just deselect that box. We want it empty. Now for your page size, it has a preset, I should say, page sizes in here, like your letter page size is your standard 8.5 by 11, your legal, your tabloid, et cetera, et cetera. So you can just, and they even have a business card down here, but we're going to keep it at letter because we want it to be an 8.5 by 11 page size. Orientation is portrait. Now you can toggle between the two. You can kind of see what landscape does and what portrait does. Very similar to Word so far, but we're going to keep it at portrait. And then columns. I'm going to change it to 2 columns because I'm going to do a 2-column grid for my menu design. And then let's see if the website gives us, or course homepage gives us any bleed options. Let me look at that real quick. I want to make sure I'm telling you correctly. All right, let's look down here. Okay, so yeah, it does. Here we go. So the margins are 0.375 inches, and that's on all of them. So if you have this little chain link selected, it means that you're making all the settings the same. So you'll only need to enter in the value once, okay? And the bleed, if you click on this arrow, if you don't see it, just click on this little arrow, bleed and slug, that's just hidden options. The bleed will be 0.125 inches. And what that does is, if you see this red line now around my white page, this red line says this is where the printer is going to crop. So we really need to make sure that any background or images that we want to bleed over the page are extended to this red line to give the printer some extra room when it's cropping. Otherwise, you get kind of an uneven white border, or something's cropped funny, or something gets cut off or left off. So to avoid this, we want to make sure that any colored background or picture or whatever it is that we want to extend off the page extends all the way to the bleed line. So this is important to get used to when you're designing and going to send an assignment or a project to the printer. Okay, this is printer marks basically. Okay, so we're going to hit OK. And this is what your document should look like. Page 1, page 2, and page 3. All right, and another helpful thing that you'll want to turn on under your view, you go down to, let's see, grids and guides. You want to make sure that your smart guides are turned on and snap to guides is turned on. What this does is it helps you, it kind of shows you when something is locked into place. It shows you when something is centered or aligned right. It will guide you basically, because you can't eyeball it. It's hard to eyeball something and assume that it's correct. So these smart guides kind of help you snap things into place when you get close to where you need to be. All right, so let's jump into, okay, so before we get into the assignment, I want to cover what these tools do and what you're going to need to know for the quiz, okay? So first things first, we're going to talk about the toolbar. This is how my toolbar is typically set up. So going from top to bottom, we're going to go over some of the tools that you'll need to know. There's 10 tools that you'll need to know how to operate, okay? And I'm going to close out of some of my windows here because I've got too many up. Kind of open this up for you. Okay, so if you've used InDesign before, probably the first tool at the top is the one that is the most common, the one that you're most familiar with. This is the selection tool. Now we're going to go through all the tools, not all of them, but we're going to go through a majority of these tools and see what they all do, because the way you learn is to just practice. Many of the icons have a small triangle in the bottom right. As you can see, like the type tool has that little triangle at the bottom of it. This means that there are additional tools in that space if you click and hold. So there'll be more tools, so I'll hold it down. Look, there's a type tool and a type on a path tool. That means, so these additional tools are kind of hidden. So there'll be more tools listed below than you actually see in this toolbar here or in your toolbar. But to access any of these tools, you just click and hold and it will give you options. So there's the pencil tool, the smooth tool, the erase tool. So more than just what meets the eye here. These little triangles indicate that there are hidden tools. Another little trick is if you're trying to go quickly, if you hover over a tool, it will tell you what the name is. So if you're still getting familiar with what the tools are called and you forget, you can just hover over it. Okay. And then another trick is in the parentheses next to the name of the tool is the keyboard shortcut to access it. So if you're a keyboard shortcut fiend like I am, it saves a lot of time instead of having to click back and forth with the mouse all the time. You can use keyboard shortcuts. So for example, the keyboard shortcut for the type tool is the letter T. So if you just click T on your keyboard, your mouse will change into the actual tool. So that's kind of a neat little trick. So starting with the selection tool. Do you know what the selection tool does? Anyone know? It's very similar to Photoshop if you've used Photoshop before.
Selection tool is used when you are trying to make a selection on either a picture or typing.
Absolutely, exactly. Miranda nailed it. So just like with Photoshop, the selection tool is your basic pointer tool. It can allow you to select an entire object or text box, and it allows you to move it around or delete it. So basically, it's kind of your mouse. It's just there to click and drag, and you can move things around. So I'll show you, just grabbing a little rectangle here. Pretend this is my object, and it's on my whiteboard. So I can click and drag and move it around. I can also resize it if I want to make it smaller or bigger. Okay, and it allows me to delete it. So when it's selected, you can hit delete and it will delete. So you can select the entire object or a text box or whatever, move it around or delete it. The direct selection tool, this white one, is a little bit different. It does different things. So I'll show you with this blue rectangle here. The direct selection tool only selects one anchor point on an object. So you'll notice that there's these little white anchor points. You see these white anchor points at the corner or in the center of your object or text box. And the anchor point there allows you to click on them. So if you hold down Shift and click on it, it now will allow you to manipulate that anchor point, therefore changing the complete look of your object, okay? So that's kind of a neat little trick. If you wanted to move one specific anchor point, this is the tool that you would use, okay? Now, I basically use this in conjunction with the Add Anchor Point tool, but we'll get into that a little bit more. But again, this is to manipulate anchor points. And you can still move the object around, but the main focus is, or the main importance of this tool is to be able to grab your anchor points and do different things with them, okay? So not to be confused with the black arrow, the selection tool. All right, so the selection tool is item select. The direct selection tool allows you to manipulate those anchor points. Okay. So the selection tool allows you to move elements on the layout. The direct selection tool allows you to manipulate the anchor points. All right, so let's go to the next one. This one's the, let's see, I don't think we need to know the page tool. I think we're going to skip that. We're also going to skip the gap tool and the content collector tool, but we will talk about the type tool. So if you click T on your keyboard or grab the type tool, I want you to experiment with this. You simply click and drag, and then you'll see a cursor blinking in your box. That says you're ready to type. You're all set to go. You can enter in text, copy, paste. You can also resize text in your box, and I'll show you how to do that. If you go to window at the top of your screen, there'll be a drop down menu, and if you click on type and tables and go over to character, this brings up a character panel that will allow you to resize your fonts. It will allow you to adjust the tracking and the leading and the size of your font and everything that you need to, even the font family, you can change it here, or the bold with the font style here, you can change. So in this case, if I wanted to change something to 40 points and I wanted to change the font to Helvetica, could do that there, or if I want it to be bold oblique, could do that. So this is how I change my text. This is how I get a text box, okay?
There's actually an easier way for you to change how big the font is. If you make it black out and you hit Command and Shift and drag your mouse at like the corner, and makes it bigger or it makes it smaller.
Yeah, exactly. So Miranda's sharing a computer tip. So if you wanted to resize your text, you could do that as well. So Shift and Command, well, Shift, what it does is it constrains your proportions when you're resizing any kind of object. Command will allow you to resize the font. There's also another easy way to do it too, if you wanted to highlight the text like this and go up to your up here at the top of your character controls panel, and you can make sure that if the font size is highlighted, and then you can use the up and down arrows to resize if you wanted to. So that's also another way to adjust it. But yeah, you'll find that there's several ways to do the same thing in InDesign, but as we're getting to know these tools, you do what's comfortable for you, what you're used to, and what's quick for you as well, because these are meant to be quick, but some students find it hard to, some aren't familiar with the keyboard and don't want to use it, some do. I use the keyboard all the time, so keyboard shortcuts are very handy for me. So just like Miranda said, Shift and Command, and then grabbing an anchor point on your object will allow you to resize it proportionately too, because if we just hold Command, this is what happens. Oh, we just skewed it, and it's no longer proportionate. Okay, so it's very important to keep that Shift button down. Okay, now Shift will help you resize an object proportionately. You just hold down Shift, it'll allow you to resize an object or a picture. So that's very handy when you're doing your menu design, that if you want to resize a picture proportionately instead of skewing or stretching, you simply hold down Shift as you click and drag a corner anchor point. Okay, you can even drag the center anchor point. So any anchor point, and you hold down Shift, will help you keep and constrain those proportions. Now, if it's text and you want to expand the font, it's Shift and Command. That constrains the proportions, and it also increases the font size. So excellent tip, Miranda. That's great to know. And that's also very helpful too, instead of having to go in and change it manually. So as you get familiar with InDesign, you will find that there are shortcuts that really save you some time. All right, let's see what other tools on the list in the quiz. It's the line tool. Okay, so the line tool operates very similar to maybe other objects. You would access it the same way on your toolbar. It's right under the type tool, and you simply click and drag. Now, clicking and dragging will kind of skew the shape of the line. Let me add a stroke to this so we can see it. So a simple way when you're drawing a line tool so you don't get a weird slant or an angle on your line, you want a perfectly straight line, you just hold down Shift. So Shift is really going to be your best friend when you are designing. And in design, you really want to make sure that you hold down Shift to constrain proportions and keep things very, straight and proportionate. All right, so this line tool creates a line. It's simply that. You can hold Shift while you click and drag to keep it straight and horizontal or straight and vertical. Or if you want it to be at a 45-degree angle, you can rotate it and hold down Shift, and it will automatically go at a 45-degree angle. So that's kind of neat. The neat thing with the line tool, and you'll find as we design our menu, is that it's a good way to add some embellishment to your InDesign or document, to your menu, I should say, without adding any graphics or pictures. So what you would do to change the color of a line is you go up to the stroke panel right up here. And you can give it a different color, blue, yellow, green, whatever you want to do. You can change the color that way with these preset color swatches. Or if you go down at the very bottom of your toolbar, there's something called the stroke and fill. And by double clicking the stroke, it will bring up a color panel. A color picker is what it's called. You can click and drag around the color picker until you get a color that you want, or you can move the arrows up and down to get different shades of this color scheme. And when you find one that you like, you can hit OK, and you can apply it to your stroke. So that is another way to change color. You can also change the style of it by clicking here. And underneath the stroke size, you can choose solid, you can do a double line. This one we'll be working with is white diamond. We're going to be using white diamond a lot. And or you can do a dashed line, or one of my favorites is the dotted line. I like that. Add some character. So this is a great way to add some embellishment to your menu design by knowing how to use the line tool. Okay. All right.
Actually, class, I was actually told not to use the dash, like the kind of line, dotted line, due to the fact that it was unprofessional.
Not to use the dotted line. There's a time and a place for it. You'll find lots of instructors want to steer you away from using certain things for assignments because if you don't know how to use it right, then it can look wrong. It can look like it's amateurish. There's no right and wrong about the dotted line, in my opinion. I'll show you lots of very professional designs that actually use it. But I think that with the instructors, and I'm included, I will discourage a lot of things in class. And then you'll go to another instructor and say, well, Miss Woodland said that that you're not supposed to use this, or you're not supposed to use a stroke or whatever. So it's just to keep you, to kind of steer you in the right direction. But my whole philosophy, and as a graphic designer, is you learn the rules and then you learn how to break them once you get good at it. So that's kind of where we're at. So there's nothing that's off limits in this class necessarily, unless I specify. But if you find that you add a dotted line and it looks kind of hokey, take it out. You're the graphic designer, so you have the eye for the design of what you're trying to achieve. Now in in this assignment, we're not going to be using a dotted line. We'll be using the white diamond or a double thick right here. We're using one of these. So it's really up to you. But again, there's no right and wrong with the stroke. It just, does it fit your design or doesn't it? And so as instructors, we really want you to develop that eye for design so that, like I said, you learn the rules and then you learn to break them. So at least that's my philosophy anyways. All right, let's move on. Let's see what the next tool is. Okay, the pen tool. This is an interesting tool. I don't know, Miranda, have you used the pen tool a lot?
Not a whole lot, just a little bit.
A little bit. So yeah, and to be honest, I hadn't used the pen tool until I was kind of well into my career, because there wasn't I was doing magazine layout for a long time, so I was working solely in InDesign, and then I shifted gears to logo design, and then that was a whole nother animal. So using the pen tool and being able to master it, it really is one of the hardest tools to master. So it will take practice. Don't get discouraged, but the more you can get familiar with it, the better off you are. You simply draw, and I'll show you, it's this pen tool right here. You simply draw by clicking from point to point. And what it does is it creates lines. And there's also another way that if you're clicking, before you unclick, you can hold it down and you'll notice you can create a curve. So this is a whole nother animal, like I said, but as you hold and drag the cursor, you make a curve. Then you can click on the point next to where you'd like to continue your shape, or if you're done, you can deselect. To see it in action, I just demonstrated it here, but there's a lot of YouTube videos you can go see to kind of see how it's done and how to use it. There's a class that will teach you strictly how to use the pen tool. So you'll get there eventually, but this is a fun tool when you can master it. So I encourage you to practice it. But the pen tool is my favorite. It's just one of the hardest ones to master for sure. All right, let's talk about, yes?
I found the pen tool very difficult.
Yeah, it's very, it can be very challenging for sure. It takes a lot of practice. A lot of seasoned designers are still trying, I mean, I'm still trying to master it. So it takes a while to get the hang of it. You'll notice in your pen tool that there's other hidden tools like your add anchor point tool. This allows you to add extra anchor points. So if you wanted to manipulate your shape even more, you could add them. Let me actually change this color because you can't see when I'm adding them. Okay, let's do a, okay, there we go. If you wanted to delete an anchor point, you would just hold it down, select your delete anchor point tool. And this will allow you to delete anchor points that you don't want or don't need. Therefore, it will result in a much different shape. But that's what you would use that for. All right, let's see what else they want you to know. Let's talk about the, the rectangle tool. We talked about how to draw a line, and that's a form of an object. This is also, if you click on your rectangle tool, there's other shapes in there. It's got your polygon tool, your ellipse tool, and your rectangle tool. So if you click on your rectangle tool, just like you would a line, you click and drag with your mouse, and you can kind of create the shape and size that you want. If you hold down Shift, this will help you create a perfect square, okay? Same thing with your ellipse tool. When you're drawing a circle, it's very easy to kind of start and look like a squished oval or maybe a football or an egg or something that's skewed and misproportioned. But if you hold down Shift and click and drag, now all of a sudden you're able to create a perfect circle. So instead of eyeballing it, you're now able to create something that you know is spot on. Okay? So just clicking and dragging with your mouse, and then your selection tool will allow you to move that object around with your mouse. Then there's the polygon tool. The polygon tool allows you to create starbursts. It allows you to create stars or triangles even. What you do simply is double click on the tool in your toolbar to get your polygon settings. And this is where you can specify how many sides you want. And if you're creating a star, you can create a star inset. So if I didn't want a star and I wanted to create a triangle, I would just select 3 sides and hit OK. So now I'm able to draw a triangle. Just kind of neat. Lots of different shapes there. Okay. So that's how you create your shapes. Now let's talk about color for a second. You've got your objects and you want to change the color. There's a few places you can do it, like I mentioned. If you go to your, let's see, if you go to Window and select Color, you can do a gradient or swatches, or you can access your color wheel. Their swatches are either preset swatches that are in your computer settings already, your CMYK values, are already there. You can create custom swatches. So say I wanted to add this lavender to my color swatches because I'm going to need it for later if that's the case. Well, it's already selected here in my fill box at the top of my swatches panel. And by clicking this new swatch icon at the bottom right, it's kind of that dog-eared page at the bottom right. If you click that, it now has added my new purple swatch. So now it's in my library, my color library, basically. So now I can change any object to that same color purple as I'm going through my design. So this is very handy if you're doing your menu design and you have a perfect shade of teal that you want to use. And instead of having to go back and enter the values again, you can just simply add that color swatch to your swatches panel. So that's one way to change color and manipulate color. You can, change color on your objects, and that's very fun. But if you wanted a more custom color, what I recommend is going to Window, go to Color. Oops. Color, and go to your color panel. I'll close out of the swatches here. This brings up your color panel here. You can select different shades of that color. That's also an option. Or if you double click your fill box here at the bottom of your toolbar. Double clicking it will bring up your color picker like I showed you earlier. And just by moving the cursor on the screen, this will allow you to access different shades, different tones, and different colors on the color wheel. Your cool and warm colors. So just kind of play with it, and you see those values change. You've got your CMYK values here on the right, and then your RGB values on the left. And we're not going to get too much into the difference of them in this class right now, but you'll be more concerned with the CMYK values. But you'll just find your color or your shade and say you're looking for that teal color, and that's the one. You hit OK, and that's the one you want to add to your swatches, and there you go. So this is more of a way to create a custom color instead of what's preset already in your panel. All right, are there any questions about creating shapes, changing colors, resizing objects? Any other questions about that?
Nope, none at all.
All right. Again, this is probably a refresher for you, Miranda, but this is good, good to review. Okay, so these are just basic things. So now let me show you, if you were going to create, start your menu design, the first thing you'd probably want to do is create a background for your menu. So you would do that by accessing your rectangle tool. And instead of starting at the top of your white page, you're going to want to start at the top of this red line here. That's your bleed line. And remember, we talked about the importance of a bleed line. You're going to want to make sure that you extend your background color to that bleed line. Okay, so I'm going to go to Window. Let's see. 1 second, it's thinking. Give it a minute. There we go. Okay, and then now you can give it a color. So in this case, I'm going to do that walk and roll layout, and I've got my black background. Okay, now you'll notice you can see your margin lines. You can also see your anchor points, and things can get a lot really busy as you're laying out. If you hit W, it'll allow you to stand back and see what your design looks like, and it takes away the guides and the rulers and everything else that kind of muddles up the look. And it allows you to kind of see a print view of what your page will look like. So that's also a handy tip and tool. If you're getting overwhelmed with how many lines are displaying, just hit W for a different view. All right, so that's how you would add a background. Now we'll get more into the menu design in the second hour, but I want to just go through these quiz questions so we make sure we know what it is. Okay, so what is a bleed then? It's where the image or the color extends off the edge of the page. So that's one of the questions, okay? And in the new document window, I want you to look, let's see, File, New, Document, pull this up. Okay, so do you see under here the word intent? Okay, what does intent define? So if you click
How the page will look after it's printed.
Yeah, it's going to define like how the document's actually going to be used. Are you going to print it? Is this going to be for web? Is this going to be mobile display? So your intent is kind of specifying how are you going to use this document. So how the document will be used. That's another question they're going to ask you. So our intent for designing in all of these cases is going to be print, okay? Because that's why we've got the bleed and everything else. So everything will just stay at print. That was one thing I wanted to make sure that we understood. Okay, panels such as the effects and the layers and pages, this can all be found under your window drop-down menu, okay? Your window menu. So there's effects. This allows you to create some cool effects. And then your layers, you're going to need to learn to set up your layers panel. And we'll go over that. And then your pages. Another helpful view is your pages, because this shows you what page you're on. When the pages start looking the same, it's hard to know if you're on page 1 or page 2 or page 3. So you just double click on each one and that will take you automatically to that page. But one of the questions on the quiz is panels such as effects, layers, and pages can all be found under the what menu? The window menu. And window is kind of your second toolbox. It's kind of got everything else that you'll need to use. So you'll find yourself going back and forth through window and your toolbar quite a bit. So we'll want to get familiar with that. Okay, and the layouts can be moved or deleted within the panel by using your pages panel. So if I wanted to rearrange my pages, I can move page number 2 up to page 1 down to page 3. I can move things around, and you'll see that a lot better when there's elements on these pages. But for now, you can even delete pages if you wanted to. You can even add pages if you wanted to. So that's a way, that's another question, is layouts can be moved or deleted, but usually do that in your pages panel, like you see here, okay? All right, let's get to the other tools that we're gonna need to know. We're almost done. Let's look at the other one that's kind of interesting. You've got the rectangle tool, but you've also got the rectangle frame tool. And this rectangle frame tool is kind of fun. I used this a lot when I worked for a newspaper. The frame tool functions just like the regular object tool. Like if you were to draw a rectangle, it looks just like a rectangle, but they're specially formatted to have photos placed in them. They're kind of like markers almost. When I worked for a newspaper, we didn't always have the photographer didn't always have the pictures sent in. The article was usually written before the photos made it in. So what we did is, as designers, is we just use this as a placeholder. So because it's got that X, and we knew that that was for a photo, specifically for a photo. They can easily be distinguished from a regular object box because in the normal mode, which is the one you're looking at, the objects will have this X going through them. So the frame tools are really only helpful if you're creating a template and you need to distinguish which objects are meant to have pictures placed in them and which ones aren't. So this was a really handy way of kind of place holding for the pictures. So I would say if you're laying out your layout, it might be good to just start putting placeholders in there where you plan on putting your photos. You know, if you wanted to say, I'm going to place it here, here, and then here, and that's where I'm going to put my photos. Now I'm going to lay out my content and I'll place my photos all at once at a later time. That's very helpful. Or if you were, you know, designing and you wanted to make sure they had their placeholders, this is just very helpful. All right, we talked about the ellipse frame tool, the circle. All the frame tools, again, are just like the rectangle frame tool. They're just placeholders. It's the shape of an ellipse, but it's usually meant for photos. So the frame tool is usually, just think of it like a frame. You would frame a photo. The frame tools are for pictures. That's not to say that you can't put a picture in the rectangle tool or the ellipse tool, but they usually, the frame tools usually act as placeholders if you don't have the artwork yet. So it's just kind of handy. All right, and then we have 3 more that we're going to review that the quiz covers, and that is the gradient tool. The gradient was always so tricky to learn when I was first starting out. I could never figure out quite how to get it. It was, for some reason, I just found it confusing. So I'm going to show you an easy way to kind of manipulate your gradient or do a custom gradient color. You'll need to select an object that already has a color in it. And if you double click on your gradient, it will allow you to change whether it's linear, or, whoops, let's rotate, whether the gradient is radial or whether it's linear, okay? Radial will show you kind of a, it'll do kind of a circle-like look in the center. Another thing that you can do, oops, let me go here, select it. There we go, there's radial, there's linear. So it gives you a different color. You can move this little diamond cursor in the middle towards one shade or the other, and it will give you a different dramatic effect, whether you want it darker or lighter. You can click on this cool little button called reverse, and it will allow you to reverse the effect. If you want to add color though, you can just double click it and the color picker will come up. You can start picking a color, and then you'll go to your window control. Make sure your gradient box is up here. And by clicking on this color picker right here, it will allow you to change the color of something. Hang on, let me take off my fill real quick. There we go. There we go. All right. So if I wanted to apply a gradient to it, you can click and, whoops, click and drag it. So this is a fun tool to use if you can get the color just right. I personally think that if you custom create a gradient, this can be a lot of fun. You'll sometimes hear some instructors say, oh, don't do a gradient, don't use a gradient because I don't know, like it's not trending or it's kind of old school. I think if you do a tasteful gradient, it's okay. The way that you kind of get around it is kind of creating, if you create some text boxes of the shades that you want. So say in this case, I would like to do a green gradient. I'll create a green here. And then I want a darker green to kind of offset it. So then I go to my gradient box. And if I click on the dark, I guess the little swatch here that I can move. If I click on this and grab my eyedropper tool and select the dark version, it will automatically change it. Now if I go to the light cursor and make sure that's selected, and then I go to the lighter color, now all of a sudden this now lets me create a gradient. And by moving that diamond cursor, it allows me to create the dramatic effect, whether light or dark. I can also reverse this effect. Once you have your gradient set though, a neat little trick here is to grab the gradient tool and click and drag, and it will change the direction of your gradient. So now you've got that linear gradient showing through, but the direction is a lot different. So that's a fun one to play around with. So I want you to take some time and kind of mess with that. Let's see, the last two we'll probably cover after our 10-minute break, and then we'll jump into the menu design and then the rest of the quiz questions. Are there any questions before we go to break?
Not for me.
Okay, well, we'll see you in 10 minutes. Go ahead and stretch your legs, and we'll come back. We'll finish the last two tools that we need to know. We'll finish the quiz questions, and then we'll go right into the assignment one, how to lay it out, and all the steps that you'll need to know. All right, we'll see you guys. All right, so we're back. 10 minutes flies. All right, so let's go back to InDesign real quick. Here we go. And you know what? Actually, I want to go over the questions with you. So we're going to go to the assessments first. I'm sorry, the assessment. And I'm going to pull it up. You can kind of get an idea. I just started it and then I completed. I didn't try taking it, but I wanted you to see what it looks like. So let me switch views here. Here we go. Okay, so can you see the screen? There we go. All right, so the first one has the picture of the toolbar, and it points to specific tools that we've covered. The only two we haven't covered yet are the last two, and I will do that before we jump into our assignment. But you'll want to make sure that you know which tool is which. So the first tool is what? It's the selection tool, and the selection tool, as we know, moves elements on a page. Okay, and then for B, it's the direct selection tool, right? So what does the direct selection tool do? It reshapes elements, as we saw. We can manipulate anchor points with it. Then C is your type tool. And what does the type tool do? It can write or edit text, as we demonstrated. And then the next one you'll find is D, which is the line tool. That one's always a fun one. We're going to be using that in our menu design, actually. This one creates only straight lines. There's not much you can do with it other than the straight lines. And then there's our pen tool. So we talked a little bit about the pen tool. It works just as it does in Illustrator. It's one of those tools that kind of crosses over, same purpose, same settings. And then F generally is used for images, the text frame, remember? Or the rectangular frame tool. So sorry, so it's generally used for images. So remember we talked about it being a placeholder for the pictures. It does the same thing as the rectangle tool, but it acts as a placeholder. And then G is your rectangle tool. So it's generally used as a shape only. Though you can put pictures in it. That's not to say you can't. And then H is our gradient tool. I showed you how to use that one. And that controls how gradients work. The last two, I'll leave for you to do. We'll go over them. Oh, well, I might as well just have it. The eyedropper tool, we haven't gone over this one yet, but the eyedropper tool selects color of other elements. That's what it's used. So if you have a picture that you want to grab, there's a certain shade in that picture that you want to grab and use in your layout, or maybe you want the background to match the shade that's in the picture, you can use your eyedropper tool. So it's really, really handy. Okay, so it selects color of other elements. Let's see, where are you at? There we go. And then the last one is the magnifying glass. What do you think this one does? It zooms in and out, just like you would with a magnifying glass. There's a keyboard shortcut to do that. If you hold down Command, if you're on a Mac, or Control if you're on a PC, and hold down Command or Control and then hit the plus sign, that will zoom you in to your page. Or if you hit the minus sign, it'll zoom you out. So that's another keyboard shortcut. That's kind of fun. All right, so let's look at question number 2. So what is a bleed? We just talked about, or I'm sorry, the intent of a document does what? The intent of the document is kind of defines how the document will be used. And then when creating a document using the new document window, pages must have at least how many columns? What do you think?
2.
2. right. All right, so then the panels, let's see. What question are we on? 4. So if the panel you're using seems to have disappeared or you can't find it under the what menu, or it can all be found under what menu? What menu is kind of your second toolbox? Your window drop-down menu. You can find all, remember, effects, pages, layers, everything's under there. Layouts can also be moved or deleted within what panel? Kind of showed you this where we deleted pages and then we added a page. It's your pages panel. There you go. Okay, and then let's see, last but not least, we're on number 6, we're almost there. You can lock individual components in a layout using which panel, do you think? We haven't gone over this, but if you were to take a guess.
Layers.
Yeah, layers. And I'll show you how to set that up when we start designing. To ensure consistency throughout a layout, colors should be added to what? Swatch panel or palette. Yeah, swatch palette. So remember we talked about if you add a swatch to your swatch palette and then you want to add that same color to another object within your design, this is a great way to keep consistent so you're not changing values and the colors are slightly off. You can add custom colors to InDesign using what do you think? This one's a little tricky, but it's all of the above. The control panel, the swatch panel, the eyedropper tool, these are all tools that will help you create custom colors in InDesign. And then things like space before, space after, and drop caps. These can all be found in, we haven't covered this, but the character panel. This allows you to change things in your text. Your character can change characters. I'll show you how to do that as well. Hopefully we can get to everything in time. But to add a guide to InDesign, you simply drag it from the ruler. Okay. This one is really handy, and I'll show you how to use that because we're going to use it a lot. All right, and then in InDesign has 2 tools to draw rectangles. And which one has the X in the box? The frame tool. Okay, let's see how we did. Hopefully we all made 100 on this. Submit the question. See if we got any wrong. Oh, we did miss one, it looks like. Let's see which one we missed. Oh, when creating a document, use the new document window. Pages must have at least 1 column. Oh, must have 1 column. Okay, so that's the answer on that one. And then things like space before, space after. Oh, it's in paragraph. Okay, so let me show you real quick so that we're not confused, because that was a little trick question. If you go to window and go to your, type in tables, pull up your paragraph. Oh, thank you. I always forget I can't move until I add that screen. Okay, thank you. So if you go to your window panel and go to type in tables, click on paragraph. This is going to allow us to do, okay, so this is going to allow us to do things to our text that will, let me add some text in there so you can see. Okay, so a drop cap is when you make the first letter of your sentence bigger or larger. And if you're not sure what each tool does, just hover over your mouse over it. So this is drop cap, number of lines. So meaning how many lines do you want to make this drop cap? So this one is 3 lines long or 3 lines wide. And so this one, this is considered a drop cap. And you would make this drop cap change in the paragraph control setting. So that's what we got wrong. So I apologize for that. And then window, same thing. If you go to your characters panel, oh, it was already up. This allows you to change font size, tracking, leading, and everything like that, okay? Tracking is the space between your letters. So if you wanted them more spread out. Leading is the space between the lines of text. So how tight do you want them? How spread out do you want them? Okay. That's letting and tracking. And that's all done in characters, but your space before and your space after and your drop cap are all done here in your paragraph panel. That's the one we got wrong. And then the columns, you have to have a minimum of 1 column, which I misread the question. See, even I can misread the question. All right, so that covers that. Now, eyedropper tool, okay, say this is the gradient that I want to copy, and I have this lovely pink box that I want to make into that green gradient. Instead of having to set up that custom gradient all over again, all I have to do is select the object I want to change, grab my eyedropper tool and click on it, and it will automatically change my object to that custom color. And you can do that with photos. You can grab color in photos and images. So this is a great way to kind of tailor your layout to something more custom instead of something that's preset. And then your magnifying glass has a plus sign. That means you zoom in. You can hold down your Alt or Option button and minus out, and that will zoom you out. You can also do that keyboard manually if you hold down your Command or Control if you're on a PC, and the plus sign or the minus sign will help you zoom in and out of your view. Another question on the quiz also asked about your rulers and guides. Your rulers, if you have your rulers and guides on, you can notice at the top here of my InDesign document, there's these inches. This is my ruler, and then there's one running vertical and horizontal. If you click and drag that ruler and bring it over, you'll notice it's bringing over a little ruler line with it, and this is a little guide. And this is so handy because it will allow me to line up my objects at the same point. I can even drag from the top, click and drag, and make sure everything lines up at the top. This is super handy when you're laying out something like a menu design and you want to make sure everything is very consistent and proportional and lines up at the same point. You're definitely going to want to use this for the layout. All right, well, we don't have a whole lot of time, so I'm going to jump right into the menu design. I'm going to go to, here's a layout that we did with an old pizza place. So you'll just replace this with the logo of the company. And all the materials and links are in the assignment. So just go download those if you want to start playing with them. I just wanted to give you a few little tips here. Now, it's kind of how you create a menu. Step 1, let's see. This is how we're going to do the cover. So now you can do the cover any way, really, but there are 2 fonts that I like to use. You can go to dafont.com. That's DAFONT.com. You've probably used it before. And there's a font called Adhesive NR7, and I'll copy that into the chat box, and I'll post this also under the announcements, so you'll have it at a later time. This one is a cool font for easy banner graphics. There's also a font called Davies. This is a quirky symbol font. This has lots of vintage elements if you wanted to go download that font. So if you go download that font at dafont.com, these 2 fonts, and then add them to your font book, this is a great way to add some embellishments to your design without needing any graphics. However, if you wanted to use graphics or a few more images, there's something called pexels.com that you can click on and go there, and that will allow you to download any extra images that are free to download. So that's also really cool. Some other fonts that you might want to try, I'm going to be using Great Vibes and Josephine Slab for some of these headers, but you can go download whatever you want, whatever looks good to you. All right, and to do a cover, we're simply going to draw. I'm going to create a new document here. Here on number 2, I'm going to override, let's see, these master elements here. Okay. So first thing you're going to want to do is open up your layers panel, and then you'll notice that there's different layers, and you can add layers to your layers panel. You can lock a layer. If you lock a layer, you'll no longer be able to move it around. You can hide a layer by clicking on the eyeball. You'll hide that layer. It's no longer visible. It still exists, but it's not visible. So it allows you to kind of hide things so that you can see more of a clearer view. But you can double click on the layer name and you can give it a name. So this is a way to organize. This can be your example layer, or your type layer, or your color layer, or your image layer. You just want to make sure you're on the right layer all the time. So for this one, I'm going to do my background. Okay. And you'll want to make sure that it's highlighted so you're on the correct layer. This sometimes trips up a lot of students if you happen to design on the wrong layer. Lucky for us, it's color coded so that you can see this bounding box is dark blue, which happens to coordinate with my color coding system over here. That my background color is got the dark blue bounding box. Okay, you can change that by double clicking and giving it something else if it's too similar to another one. And once I have my box, I'm going to give it a background color. Now I can do black since it's a walk. We're doing the walk layout. But in this case, I just created a green background. And then I decided to do a border. So I'm going to grab another rectangle tool. And I'm going to use my margin line as kind of my guide for where I'm going to place my border. I'm going to select white diamond as the style. I'm also going to give this a white border, or you can do red. And then you can create a width if you want, the stroke width, just up the stroke so that you can see. Now this would be kind of nice if you were going to do the fancy restaurant if you wanted to, but in this case I'm just going to do the walk and roll sushi layout. And then again, you can grab something banner-like. You can use this banner. The way that I accessed this banner was I simply drew a text tool, or I'm sorry, use the type tool, and click and drag. And then when the cursor is blinking, just go up to type and click on glyphs. And then you can type in the name of the font. So Davies has all these cool fonts like the hands that were pointing. That was what I used up here. Those hands pointing underneath the appetizers. And that's really neat. Or if you downloaded that other font that I told you about, that will have your banners that you can pull from. So the other font was Adhesive NR7. And here's all the cool different banners that you can use. Lots of different styles. So if you wanted to use a banner, you can. Just make sure that if you're on a black background that you change your font type to white, and then you can increase your font size. That's a neat way to kind of create a banner if you wanted to use a banner for your restaurant, depending on what it is. For the walk and roll though, I won't need that. I'm just going to go in and grab, let me pull up my folder here with all my files. Sorry, give me 1 second. And grab the file with the logo in it. So it'd probably be a good time to download the file too if you have it. All right, here's the logo. Pull it right in. Oops, there we go. And you'll want to give it a white background. Let's see. First of all, yeah, I want to make sure I'm on here. And in my fill box, I'm going to click on the white. Okay, and then I'm going to give it a border. So I'm going to click on my stroke box and give it a red border. And then I'm going to up the stroke size a few points. I'm going to give it a red border and up the stroke a few times. And then I'm going to click on the thick and thick. So it's almost like a double border like that. So I can delete the white diamond and just do this walk and roll. Example, and then underneath it I can put some text. This is where I'll put my text here. And I'm not going to have time to go grab the text that they give me, but I'm going to go ahead and format it so you can see. Let's go. Red is going to be extremely hard to see, so I'm going to try to lighten up the shade a little bit. I'm going to use Helvetica because I can see that they're using a sans serif font, so I want to kind of mimic that a little bit. So here's my tagline. I'll use kind of a brighter red. And then I want to copy the shade of red in the logo so that everything matches. So I'll just highlight my text. I'll grab the eyedropper tool and click on that red spotch there, and it will give me that same shade of red. It's just slightly brighter. It is in RGB, and right now we don't need to worry about that. Right now I want you to get used to using the eyedropper tool. We'll go into the techniques later, but here's your tagline. And then at the bottom, you just need a text box. And I'm gonna make sure that my guides are turned on. For my text box, I'm gonna make sure I'm on my typography layer. And I'll click and drag my text box here. And I'll add some fill text here. And this is gonna be my address. Again, I'm gonna use Helvetica. And I'll use regular. But this time I'm going to use a white font to kind of match what I've got here. And I'm going to adjust my tracking. This is just going to be my address. Whatever info they give you in the document is what you'll use. So I'll center that and I'll place it here towards the bottom. All right. And then if you hit W, you can take a step back and kind of see what you've done. The very simple, basic front cover image to use. Here's another one that I did. This was for a pizza restaurant, so we can kind of ignore that logo there. But it's the same concept. I drew a green background, and then I did the white diamond border, and then I used the glyph found under your type tools. And I used the adhesive NR7, as you can see here, and just found a banner that looked really nice. I placed some text over it and gave it the same shade of color that was in my background. And I'll show you how I did that. Highlight the text and then click on your background color, and it will do the same shade. So it almost looks like the text has been punched out. So that's kind of a neat effect. And then underneath it in white text, I just typed in, I used bold and regular to add some contrast, and I centered my information. You're given a text, you're given text to use, so use that text. This is just an example to show you of another design. But are there any questions so far, as I know we're going through this pretty quick?
Yeah, why do we have to have 3 pages?
Say that again.
Why do we have to have 3 pages?
So you have to have 2 different cover designs. That's why. So cover design will be number 1 here. Cover design will be number 2 here. So if I'm doing the walk and roll, that's the restaurant I choose. Say this is my first option for the cover design, and then my second option, and then the third page will be where you actually put the menu items. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll get into the third page in just a minute. So you will need 2 cover designs. This actually doesn't match the vibe at all, so I'm going to change this to Helvetica. And I'm going to take off this background. There we go. And I could even do this in white, but I'm going to add my white diamond border, and I can make this red. So I'm doing 1 black, 1 white, and I'm also going to take the stroke off. Oops. There we go. anyway, so you'll want to play around with it and kind of see what fits. I'm going to change this to be white. And then I'm just going to adjust the font size to be much smaller. Because I don't want it to be larger than my actual logo. So I'm adding another graphic element here to kind of change it up. With my smart guides on, I'm going to want everything centered correctly. At the bottom here, I can change this to red or black. It's going to be the summer menu or whatever the text is that they give you. All right, so that's cover 1, and then this is cover 2. I wanted to also kind of go over how to kind of create the front cover here. I wanted to introduce a small text frame. So if we grab the type tool, click and drag, just a small box, click your type cursor into it, make sure it's blinking, and then you want to set the font to Davies. So if you go to Davies under your glyphs, here as I have now, and then I'm going to find this hand pointing. This is the Latin capital letter U. See that little pointing hand? That's kind of cool. Or I could find another symbol that's a little bit more, Asian friendly. I'm not sure. We've got something in here. That little hand, I'm not seeing anything that's jumping out at me, but we'll use the hand for now. This is just how to insert it. Could even use like a sun little icon there. Either way, this is how you insert the glyph. You just double click the glyph and it will appear into your text box. And then position the text frame where you want it. I'm going to place it underneath my banner, nice and small. And then I'm going to add my text. Use the text that the document gives you. I'm just using this for speed. And I'm going to position this underneath my banner. And then I'm going to want to create another text frame. And in this one, I'm going to double click and I'm going to get the other direction, the other hand going the other direction. Okay. And I will place it next to the other side, like that. And this can be a different color to add some contrast. Whoop, I didn't want that to be red, I want that to be black. So it stands out. Okay, then we're going to want to, center everything. So make sure your smart guides are turned on so that you're centering everything that you need to. There we go. Kind of line it up as best you can. All right, so there's my other cover design. So after you've positioned the text frame to the left of the top line of the text beginning here in appetizers, you've got the hands pointing in opposite directions. All right, now you can, now that you've finished the front of your menu card, you're pretty much done with this option. So now you can go into doing the actual layout of the document. Now, how do we finish the reverse side of this card? So first things first, you want to give it a header, maybe put menu up at the top, or you could put like a divider bar here. Because this is an Asian restaurant, what I'm going to do is take off the white diamond bold. This would probably be more fancier for the fine dining, but it's not very, Asian restaurant friendly. So what I'm going to do is change it to just a solid line, and I'm going to make it very thin. So all of these, I can even make even thinner if I wanted to, 0.5. So they're just very thin divider lines. And depending on the content, you can, delete them or add more. But this is a really nice way to be able to, give some division. And you can you can format your text any way you like. I'm going to grab some text to kind of show you how to do it. So I've grabbed my menu items, and I'm using my margin line as kind of a starter point for my text box. I'm kind of making sure all my text boxes line up correctly. Oops. And this font I'm going to make Helvetica. That seems to be the font I've been using lately, so I'm going to use Helvetica. Now I'm going to be looking for formatting. Formatting is very important. Also font size for in here, I'm going to use about 10-point font. That seems to be a good size. I'm going to extend my text box. Now you can give it more, spread it out a little bit more for easier readability, but for the headline and the price, I'm going to bold it so that there's contrast. Here we go. Okay, and then I'm just going to tab over the price so that it all ends at the same place. All right, you can even use the space bar to get you all the way to the edge. If you wanted it lined up. You could even use that dotted line like we were talking about. You often see dotted lines in menu design anyways, and this one doesn't need to be very big at all. I'm going to grab my dotted line here, then change it to black, and I'm going to do a 1-point stroke on it so it stands out. So you can see here, I'll zoom in. This is a very appropriate time that you could use a dotted line. So like I said before, with that instructor who might have said not to use it, there might have been a time and a place not to use it, but definitely in menu design, this is something that you'll often see used quite a bit. This is a great way to divide items to make them look visually interesting and also to guide the eye towards the price. So in menu design, this is definitely something you're going to want to incorporate. And so I'm just going to use these dotted lines here, kind of line it up with the baseline of the text. And I'm making sure things I want to be looking for is I want to make sure that the spacing between your items is even. So I want even amount of spacing. I'm also going to be looking for correct formatting. So if the price is going to be bold, I want all the prices to be bold. So if you're going to apply some formatting to a character, I want the rest of the menu to have that same. So I want you to be consistent throughout, okay? Let's see. Then if you are doing a menu item that has a picture, you can place that picture right in there. I used the line tool to create dividers of items. So if you wanted to group appetizers and entrees or drinks, this is a great way to do that. You saw how the example showed that some had pictures scattered, some had pictures all in one column. Whatever the pictures are, I want you to make sure that they are correctly formatted. So this is how you'll do the text. Now I'll show you how to place up an image if you're not familiar. I'm going to move this line here. If you grab your rectangle frame tool and click and drag, I want everything to end at the same place. Now do you see these green arrows that kind of snapped my square into places? They're saying this is the even amount of distance between the lines and the next object. So this is telling me this is a good size. I'm simply gonna just copy and paste so that everything is even. And now I can click on the text frame, I can go to File, go to Place, and then find the image where I saved it on my computer. So File, Place will allow you to find that picture and select it, and it will automatically place it in here. Okay, are there any questions so far?
No.
We're kind of going fast. Once you've placed an image though, if you want to resize the image within the text box, there are some handy tools here up at the top. Fill frame proportionately is the one you're going to want to use. So let me find a picture that I can throw in here as an example real quick. Let's see. Here we go. All right, so I'm going to throw in this sushi picture. And to resize it, remember we hold down Shift to get it resized. All right, and so I want to make sure, as I've resized it down, the actual box, the picture did not resize with me. But to help me, I'm going to click on that fill frame proportionately right up here at the top. If I click on that, it will automatically fill the frame. Now, if something looks like it got cut off, because this is a vertical picture in a horizontal box, and if you double click on it, you'll see that brown bounding box. That means that's your entire picture, but this is the only portion that's being visible. So this hand will allow me to click and drag within the text frame box, or I'm sorry, within the picture, the rectangle frame box. And this will allow me to position the picture in the best way. So if I want to feature the sushi and I don't want anything to get cut off, or I want more red in my picture, I can kind of shift it up, but I want to feature that piece of sushi really well. So I'm going to leave it like that. All right. And so using the fill frame proportionately button will allow me to fill the frame proportionately, and then I can just double click within the box and kind of position it the way I want with that hand. Okay. You can also use the up and down arrow keys, left and right, to fix your picture as well. That's just another easy way to place it. Let's see what else you'll need to know. We're running out of time, so we won't get to everything, but what I will show you is how to package your document when you're all done. This is a huge, crucial step. What happens is if you're using all these fun fonts that I told you could go download, or maybe you found one on your computer, but I don't happen to have that font, what it's going to do is it's going to create a default font when it displays, when I open your InDesign document. And it's going to mess with formatting. It's going to change up the layout. It's going to shift everything. And so it's not going to look as well as you had intended it to. In fact, it might look wrong. And so to avoid that, and to make sure I have the pictures you're using, also if you go grab pictures from that website I talked to you about, and you put it in your document, I don't have that picture on my computer, it won't display. So there's lots of quirks that you're going to have to work out, but the one way to avoid all of those things is if you package a file. So if you go at the top, your file drop-down menu, and click on package, there's a button here at the very bottom. If you click on that and just follow the steps, it'll give you some warnings, like it'll say, I can't find this link, or you're using a picture that's in RGB, or something like that. You'll need to go back and correct it, but just hit package when you're done. It says it needs to be saved. We'll hit save, and it'll ask you what you want to save it as. So save it as something you'll remember, and then make sure that you save it where you'll remember. So I always save everything on my desktop and then I file it later, but that's just me. So you save it where you want. If you've got a folder for this class, then that'd probably be appropriate. This is printing instructions. You won't need that for this class, but this is a handy place to put information for the printer if you're sending something to print. Again, you'll give it a name and save it. The PDF preset, you want smallest file size. It will automatically create a PDF for you, which is very handy. So it saves you a step. Hit package, hit OK, and then it will go on and package. It usually takes a few minutes to do that. To make sure that it was done correctly, go back to that packaged folder, open it up, and look at the PDF inside, and make sure that everything displays correctly, okay? You're gonna upload a zip file with this packaged folder, and you're gonna upload that PDF as well. Now, it's important to have that PDF because that's how I'm gonna give you your grading feedback. I'm gonna create comments on the PDF, and then I'm gonna submit it back to you under the comment section of the assignment. So I'll give you a comment and just say, hey, click on the speech bubbles for more detailed information, more feedback, and then that's what you'll use if you plan on making corrections. I'll just kind of pinpoint out the weak areas of the layout, or even your strengths, what I thought I liked about it. But again, try to use your creativity with this. I'm going to be looking for consistency, correct formatting. I really want you to keep a minimalist point of view. Things don't need to be crazy. Even though you're allowed to use backgrounds and pattern backgrounds, if you'll notice this first example, I just did a simple white background. That's all it took, and that looks really nice. You know, it's a classic colors are black and red and white, and so that's kind of what I went with here. With this one, I did a black and white and red, but just kind of reversed the color, and things were a little different. I guess I should probably put the address information and everything down here. But anyways, you kind of get the idea of what it's supposed to look like. So with that said, that's how you'll package a folder. Are there any questions regarding this assignment at all?
No.
Okay. It's a bit overwhelming. There's a lot of information to take in, especially when we're trying to get to know the toolbar. But again, come on Wednesday. I'll be here for the multi-session, and you can come in and ask questions, or we can just work one-on-one. I usually just kind of go first come, first serve. So whoever was in line first, we'll just work out your questions, and then we'll move to the next person. So it's good if you get there early. Let's see. Any other questions you have, email me. I'm pretty quick to respond. So just let me know how I can help. And just make sure you use the text that the restaurant provides you. They give you all the menu items, the pricing. They give you all the text that you need to use. So just make sure you use that. And email me if you have questions. All right. Thank you so much, Miranda, for coming. And for all of you that are watching this at home, this is it's literally a fun assignment. This is actually something you would do in real life if you're going to pursue graphic design as a career. This and the discussion, I feel like, are really career related as far as the industry is concerned. So this is definitely something I've had to do several times, menu designs, and it's fun. It gets fun. Don't worry about it. All right. Well, thanks for coming, and I look forward to seeing all of your assignments, and I'll see you guys on Wednesday, hopefully. See you later.